7:15 a.m. on the 21st of October 2025. New moon. The day after the internet broke. New moon in 6 hours? Yeah, 6 hours 10 minutes from the time I'm recording this. 1:25 p.m. UK time. Yeah, sun conjunct moon. The second in a long line of new moons at 28 degrees. The moon is in a much more consistent and regular orbital pattern, both in terms of distance and speed around our Earth than it normally is. I find it difficult to attribute any specific meaning to this phenomena, but it is unusual for there to be 6 months of consistent new moons and full moons at the same degree of consecutive signs. So, in today's new moon chart, it's a bit of a difficult one. We have the sun and the moon together at the end of Libra, squaring Pluto at the start of Aquarius. Okay, more on that in a moment. We also have the sun and moon at the end of Libra squaring Jupiter at 24.5 degrees of Cancer, about to start thinking seriously about going retrograde, bearing in mind that Pluto has just stopped going retrograde. There is also the ongoing conjunction of Saturn and Neptune, both retrograde, and Ceres, the planetoid, the largest of the asteroid belt, the only asteroid that is round, that has gravity, so I consider it a planetoid, is also in the mix. And indeed, Neptune is now, as I speak, at 0 degrees 1 minute of Aries, retrograde, at the very, very, very first minute of the first degree of the zodiac. So Neptune will retrograde back into Pisces within 24 hours, where it will join Saturn. Most Pisces are sick of Saturn and Neptune by now. So, yeah, there's a lot of focal points, and the biggest focal point I haven't mentioned yet, and that is the Mercury-Mars conjunction at 20 degrees of Scorpio. So you have the Sun in the same degree as the Moon, Mercury in the same degree as Mars, Saturn and Neptune conjuncting each other. And just for added strength, the Sun and the Moon both square Jupiter and square Pluto. So this is going to be very much around overreach, whether it is over expectancy, overweight, largesse. But with the Sun square Pluto as well as Jupiter, pride cometh before a fall. Whether it is in the tearing down and restructure of ancient artifact buildings, whether it is in various political, economic, militaristic agreements. I find it difficult under this new moon to see anything transparent. Mercury conjunct Mars in Scorpio. Sun and Moon square Pluto, the ruler of Scorpio. I think there's a lot going on that is being overstated and to a lesser extent understated in a behind-the-scenes manner here. And at the individual level, I suppose if I were to use this new moon as a forecast pattern for the next month, or at least the next 2 weeks, I would be saying, well, don't believe everything you're being told. And it is not to imply that there are a lot of lies out there. It is to imply that the whole truth is not being transparent. Easy to say in this world we live in. But this then brings me to the AWS outage yesterday. And now I had to cancel some of my readings yesterday because Zoom packed up. We've all got our stories. Various people weren't able to get onto their social media platforms. Okay? Various people weren't able to play on their gaming platforms. Deeply tragic. Other people weren't able to get onto their banking. So I found out at the time that the very first reports started coming in of problems. And this was 7:56 a.m. UK time. 3:56 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. But it became quickly obvious that what was going on was not a sort of worldwide phenomena. It wasn't happening to people, for example, in Singapore. It was only happening in Western Europe and then later in the day to the US of A. And it was all linked to servers on the Eastern Seaboard run by Amazon Web Services, AWS. And there's various stories of what was going on, DNS not being configured properly, domain name servers. The internet is still a fragile thing. It's difficult to realise, but there is no one alive today under the age of 35 who can remember what life was like before the internet. Those of us who are older than 35 remember what it was like before computers. We have only had the internet publicly available 30 years. Who was online in 1995? A very few. I didn't get my first email till 98, 99. Didn't get my first website till 2001. So, this is very, very new still. It's still in its teething pains. Nevertheless, I did some poking around at the astrological level. And I found out that the headquarters of AWS is in Seattle. So I found out where the headquarters of the company was, and I found out the time that the outage started. So I thought, okay, let's do a chart for the time the outage started in Seattle, which was on the 19th of October at 23:56, 4 minutes to midnight, based in Seattle, Washington State. And a horoscope set for that time is incredibly revealing. Excuse me. Yes, the sun is square Pluto. Pluto was exactly setting less than a quarter of a degree away from being exactly opposite the ascendant at the time of the outage. But what's even more interesting is that at that precise minute, Mercury and Mars were exactly conjunct, both at 19 degrees 11 minutes of Scorpio, unaspecting anything else. Mercury conjunct Mars happens once every 18 months, unless it's a retrograde with Mercury. We might get another one actually, because Mercury's going to start going retrograde in a few weeks' time, so it might come back as far as Mars, probably will. But on average, it's once every 18 months. So for it to be happening at that exact moment of time, so if you multiply 360 degrees by 60 minutes, so, we're looking at something in the odds of 1 in 23,000 for it to be precisely conjunct at the moment that the outage started, suggests to me that this is beyond the capacity of actors. This is beyond the capacity of human intelligence to be able to organise an event like this at that precise moment. So do I think that this was the result of some foreign state actor? No, I don't. I think it's much more lackadaisical human incompetence. Although it does make me question, why do so many of the British banks, why do thousands of companies all over the world rely on one large internet streaming business to run all their platforms? There's going to be a shake-up. There has to be a shake-up. It wasn't just the banks in the UK that went down, it was Zoom as well. So, do I think it was malfeasance? No. Do I think it was stupidity? Yeah, probably. There are indeed some very intelligent, bright, young things out there who work for various states who are capable of incredibly sophisticated hacks. Make no mistake. But I can't see this as being one of those. I'd be astonished. I think when the results come out, there's going to be a fudged explanation, but the reality is that someone somewhere probably put a forward stroke in a code instead of a backward stroke. Nevertheless, it's a hell of a chart. And for those of you who are astrologically minded and interested in studying the charts of phenomena, it would be a good idea for you to look at the 19th of October 2025 at 11:56 p.m. in Seattle, Washington State, because it's a fascinating chart. The chart of an outage. And of course we can't predict these things in the future because these things are so random. You could see this same chart 10 times again in the next 6 months and there wouldn't be an outage. But as a snapshot of an event, it gives a fascinating insight into the dark subterranean world of the intricacies of coding at the deepest of levels. Sun square Pluto, Mercury conjunct Mars in Scorpio, and that's a metaphor for today's new moon as well. So there's a lot of truth and lies out there. There's a lot of things not being told, and the reason things aren't being told is not so much because they want to conceal things, it's because most of them are just ashamed of revealing what they've been up to. Shame, which is a kind of shadow twin sister of greed and power and fear. These attributes of human character, when amplified, and they're being amplified with the Jupiter squaring the new moon today, they have tremendous power in the very short term. So will there be more outages? Yeah, you bet your life. Is this malfeasance? Probably not. And don't believe everything you're being told. Except by me, because I've got quite a few things coming up in the next few days, and you're going to see a plethora of videos in this next couple of days. Meantime, enjoy your lives. Trust yourselves. Trust your body. Trust your instincts. And don't buy into the hype and spin. Catch you later, world. Bye.